joining this Global Alliance webinar, Communication Dilemmas in the Era of AI. This webinar is part of the Global Alliance Ethic Month and is organized by K1, the Danish Communication Association. 18 months ago, AI was something only a few communicators were familiar with. But with the launch of ChatGBT, AI has become a key topic for professional communicators. And AI can definitely be a benefit for both media and for communication teams, but it also raises a number of ethical questions. In this webinar, we will discuss the dilemmas that we foresee news media and professional communicators will be confronted with in the years to come. My name is Anders Schroll. I'm board member at K1 and will be moderating today's session. And together with me, I have a great panel of front runners when it comes to use of AI in Danish news media and corporate communication. So a warm welcome to Stine Bjerre Hertel, management editor at Mandag Morgen, a Danish news media, and also welcome Jonas Blad Hansen, board member of K1 and the founder of the consultancy Next Level IC. So Stine, please introduce yourself and let us know what made you excited in the first place to use AI, and what do you see as the biggest dilemma for news media and communication professionals in using AI?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm the management editor of Monday Morning, which is a media that has existed for 30 years and deals with all sort of societal issues. And I deal with AI mainly from the leadership issue when I write and I do speaking. But the way we got interested in it was actually because we did a whole issue about the metaverse. And we just heard about it's like roughly 14 months ago. And we had just heard about Midjourney and Dolly, and we just decided to give it a try and see, like, it was kind of, wouldn't it be fun to see if Midjourney could make the front cover of our magazine? And it could. And we were like, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. And since then, we didn't really look back. And so today, Midjourney makes all our front covers together with our graphic designer, Michael. But so we just sort of, it opened our eyes towards like, okay, there are actually things here that can work for us creatively. So that's how it started. But speaking of dilemmas, that's what we realized afterwards, because I think like a lot of other companies, we were like, oh my God, this is cool. And then we started, and then you start learning, and then you realize, oh, that was a bad idea, and that's actually a problem. And, so I think I see a lot of the dilemmas for media and communications professionals, but mainly I see there's a lot of bad quality out there, and I see we did that ourselves. We make stuff with generative AI, which is of poorer quality than it would be if it was made by a human being. And we have to learn that we should have the same requirements for AI as we have to human beings. The second is, I think, and you might not agree, but that's my opinion, I think as media and communication professionals, we have an extra responsibility. Our responsibility is even greater than everyone else using AI out there, because if we are not there to ensure things are high quality, unbiased, truthful, everything, then who else should? And then the last thing is, especially for us as a media publisher, we have a special obligation of ensuring things are truthful, that we somehow figure out how we can ensure that people can trust what we say. That's pretty hard right now, but yeah, probably talk more about that.
Thank you, Stine, and once again, welcome. And I look forward to hear much more about your AI journey at Mandag Morgen in a second. Welcome to you, Jonas. I have seen that you have created your own avatar. So can I actually trust that it's you who are presenting today? And how would I know?
Who knows? I can only give you my guarantee that this is me. speaking right now. And I think right now it's pretty easy to see that it's still me, because I am able to, the technology is still not as good. So it will not be able to copy my movements as these and so on right now. But who knows in the future? Will we see the difference? I don't know. But I have to give you my word that this is me, and you have to take it for good.
I trust you, Jonas, at least for now. Maybe in a few years' time, I will have to do some extra things to test it.
Yeah, a safe word or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Jonas, please also let us know what made you excited in the first place to start using AI, and what do you see as the biggest ethical dilemmas for communicators?
Yeah, actually, I started out 5 years ago finding this topic extremely interesting. It was from a quite, you could say, different perspective, because I saw AI as something that would change the way executives would, work and make decisions. Because I saw some of these tools coming up as being something that would really change and have a huge impact on businesses in the future. But that was a bit too early, I guess. But now here we are with generative AI, also changing the terms for corporate communications and a lot of other businesses. So I'm really interested in how technology in general is changing, you could say, the way we work, changing the conditions for our work, and giving us new opportunities. But I think, I mean, obviously there are many ethical dilemmas that we will be talking about today. But I think one of the things that I find a bit, you could say, risky right now is that we are very naive in the way we view this technology right now, because the knowledge is not, our knowledge about what AI is and how it works is not good enough. It's not yet good enough. And then also sometimes, because we don't know enough about AI, we also tend to have some ideas of what it can do, and maybe it can't do that. And that is, I think, also where Stine has some good examples of where how we approach this, and we learn as we go and so on, and then we figure out oh, this didn't work out quite well, and why is that? Okay, that's because the language model might not actually be as good as we thought, and so on. So yeah.
Thank you, and welcome to you, Jonas. And I know you will also talk much more about use of AI from a corporate communication point of view. Before I hand over to Stine to share the journey of Mandag Morgen and your use of AI, I just want to let everyone know that there will be time in the end for a Q&A session. So please feel free to use the Q&A button throughout the webinar if something comes up and you want to ask the panel. So Stine, you're welcome to share your screen now and tell us more about the journey at Mandag Morgen.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see my screen now? Yeah. So this first picture I often use when I do talks about our AI journey, because I think, as many others, this is kind of how you feel the first time you hear about all the things that AI can do for you. You just press generate, and then magic happens. All sorts of stuff comes out, and it's really cool. And it is. So like I said before, it's about 14 months ago, we decided to see if the Midjourney could make our cover pages. And it can. Today, 9 out of 10 of our covers are made by Midjourney. But they're always made, in a collaboration with a human being in the end. And a few of them are made by human beings. So, yeah. So what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to show you, or I'm going to let you in on some of our reflections, because I think what I see happening a lot of places, like you said, Jonas, we're being a little bit naive. We're kind of learning backwards. We suddenly realized that the stuff we thought was cool was actually problematic. And that's also the way we have learned here in Monday Morning. So hopefully I can save you some bad moves by telling you how we did. So this is the covers you can see here. These are mainly made by AI. Actually, the one number 2 from the left is actually made by a human being. And often people can't really tell the difference. I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll find out. But that's what it looks like. And then we also use, for now, we use ChatGPT for various tasks, but it's only sort of if you have some very common article formats, and that we don't use it for writing or anything. So we just use it for like shortening our articles or making like little boxes and things like that. So that's basically what we use it for. So the major change for us has been the graphic part that we use, and we made a survey not long ago within the Nordic organizations, and we can see that most of them use AI right now, and a lot of them use generative AI as well. But only 15% have a strategy for doing so. Like only 15% of the Nordic companies have an AI strategy, and I can tell you that we don't either. But we're in the process of making one, and I think a lot of companies are in that process as well. But so all the things we did not see coming, I'm going to let you in here on a lot of the stuff we probably haven't seen yet either. But first of all, there was, issues and business gossiping. We have had quality issues. We also deal with the lack of fixed rules, like law. We've had to make our own, and then of course observe all the common copyright rules and whatever is there. Then we have experienced a lot of what I call artificial unintelligence, which I think is a major problem. And then also it had started a lot of reflections as to what does it actually do to our work, to the way we would like to work as a media, the human touch, the quality, everything. Like, what is our role as human beings when we work with AI? So about the reputational issues, this is, and I'm sorry it's in Danish, but what it says is that it took 1 minute for a creative algorithm to make Monday Morning's cover. And this is a piece by our former editor-in-chief, who wrote this as like an editor's blog, where she was telling about that we have now started to make AI, or to have AI to create our front pages. So we felt kind of, oh, this is cool, we're front runners, and we're doing this AI thing. But what happened, and another, like, this is an article about how same thing happens on Børsen. They fire some of their graphic designers because now AI is going to do a lot of their graphic works. So what happens is that suddenly you hear, when you talk to other people in the business, that people are a little bit like, okay, so you just fired people. Like, so what about the graphic designers? They used to do your front pages. What about them? Well, they don't work for us anymore. And that's actually a thing you have to think about. Like, how are you going to deal with that story? They work for us sometimes, still, they do. But still, and Børsen fired people. So suddenly, you had a different position. So this is a guy from a different magazine posting on LinkedIn, hey, we actually hired a person, like a human being, because where we work, we actually value people with creativity. So not to say that it's not, I mean, if AI works for you, you should do it. But there's a position, both places, like reputation-wise, that you should think about how you tell your story, and that it's just going to affect maybe some people's way of seeing you, that you lay down human workforce and then you introduce AI instead. And there's also a brand position to take, being the one who hire real people. I'm pretty sure of that in the future. Then, like I said in the beginning, I think we have some quality issues. I think we see a lot of bad stuff out there. And to be honest, we did the same thing in the beginning. I think this is one of the first pictures we created with Midjourney, which we actually published. And afterwards, there was a bit of a discussion about, like, what is this actually? Because I remember the conversation with my editor, and we actually thought this was pretty cool because, the whole atmosphere and the picture, this was a piece about how people are demotivated at their work and they don't have any influence. So this was like, we thought it was pretty cool. But then if it had been a human being, you would have asked, like, why are people cut in half? And why do they have twisted faces and no hands? That's pretty weird. But, we thought it was pretty cool because just the fact that it made it. And I know this was early days, saying like about 14 months ago. So there was like maybe not such a high quality of Midjourney yet, but still, we thought it was so cool that we actually accepted a quality that we would have never accepted from a human being. And the same with the picture I showed you before, you know, why does she have a weird little mushroom on her nose? You know, well, we didn't really question that in the beginning because we suffered from what I call sort of the wow effect. It's like, oh my God, look what it made. That was pretty cool. You know, you just prompt it and then stuff comes out, and it does. But we really, really have a job here to ensure that we make quality as good as we do when we're human beings. So we have definitely changed our attitude to what comes out of Midjourney, and we spend a lot of time now. And also, people took courses in prompting, and we actually treat it like a really, really professional tool now. So I would say that we definitely have a higher quality of AI graphics now. Then, and I'm not going to elaborate a lot about it because I think we're going to discuss this later. All the rights issues, which is really hard to deal with right now because we're behind when it comes to copyright. And as you probably know, there's been a lot of cases both with New York Times and Axel Springer, and there's been loads of media dealing with the whole rights versus possibilities. There's a lot of stuff we can do, but what's actually allowed and what's good for the media and what's not. But to be honest, we have no idea what people use our content for. We did, like in many other media, Alro Media, which is the ones who the owners of Monday Morning, and also the media called Altinget. We have blocked OpenAI so they cannot crawl the content we have behind paywall. But you couldn't know if someone logged in, copy pasted my article, put it into ChatGPT. We don't know if people copy our pictures. That stuff you cannot really control yet. But we try, and I think everyone in the communication media business, we try, of course, to respect other people's content. So you do not put articles that are behind paywall into ChatGPT. You do not prompt Midjourney with like, make a front page that looks like Monet. You don't use other people's artists' names, stuff like that. But we're still really waiting to figure out what's going to happen on the whole copyright issue. Like, are we gonna get any money from the media in the media industry? So I think we're a bit behind there, and yeah, to be honest, it feels a little bit unsafe that we don't really know what happens to our content. We of course try to ensure our own rights as well. When we work with Midjourney, we have our own server, our own account, and we make sure that Michael, our graphic designer, always does the final touch so that we own it and it's unique content to us. And then, yeah, like everyone else, we await the legislation, and we don't know. There could be new laws that will change the way we work, and maybe even the stuff we already have created. We don't really know, and that's the insecurity that I think we live with right now in the media business. Then, this is one of my favorite issues with artificial intelligence. Oh, this is what I call artificial unintelligence. So this was the prompt I made. Imagine what the perfect leader looks like in 2024. And I did that because I do a lot of talks in like leadership communities, networks and stuff. And I thought one day I was going to do this talk. I thought it could be fun. We were talking about the future of leadership. And I thought, I'm going to ask Midjourney what the perfect leader looks like in 2024. And I know this is a very basic prompt, but still, this is what came out. One thing is that 3 out of 4 is Barack Obama. I don't know what Midjourney has some kind of thing with Barack Obama, but as you can see, they're all men. They're all wearing suits. It's like one of them, the upper right one, is slightly dystopic and scary and even religious kind of thing. But there are so many stereotypes in these pictures and so many biases, and it's really bad. And then I thought, okay, could you at least make the leader a woman? And it did. And obviously you get women in short skirts. You can even almost look up her skirt, and she's surrounded by men with muscles and weapons. And it's like, And this was a good exercise for me, because it reminds me still how insanely biased and stereotyped these technologies are, and how major task we have, especially as communicators, professional communicators, to ensure that we do not reproduce stereotypes, biases, and all this unintelligence that AI offers us, because that is a lot. So I can definitely recommend to rehearse prompting and to be very, very aware what comes out, because it's really bad. Then we have a specific thing we agreed on as a media here, that the blue person here to the left is the first time we made a front cover with a photorealistic picture on it. And we just did it because it looked cool. But again, learning backwards, it started a new discussion, which is about this whole truth issue and fake news issue. Should we, as a public service media, create pictures that are photorealistic and therefore could be understood as something which is real? And we decided that we cannot. And that's not the issue probably for other companies. They can make different decisions, but as a public service media, as a news media, as someone who is supposed to be serving what is closest to the truth, we should not be making photorealistic pictures, because it is a form of fake news to us. So that's a specific decision we have taken. But if you look at the other person here to the right, this is a news channel, and I don't know if you probably already heard about it, but it's Channel 1 AI, which is going to be live in a second, and it's made entirely of artificial intelligence. It's algorithms. Even the hosts are fake, or they're made by algorithms. And I think that's a problem in a news media perspective, because what if people think that these people are real and it looks real? And this, I think, is super scary and a big issue when it comes to media ensuring the truth. So the last thing I just want to share with you that I think everyone should ask when start using AI is, what is our general attitude towards AI in the organization? Like I said, only 15% have a strategy, which is okay. But also we can see from our survey that there's 1 out of 10 companies where the management haven't even discussed AI yet on a management level. And I think that's kind of risky, because you should actually start having some kind of opinion towards what is this thing doing, and what is the issues within our company, what is our responsibilities. And then definitely define what is quality to us, what is quality to you as a communicator, and how do you ensure it? How does your company ensure that when you start using AI, you make the same quality and you have the same requirements to the stuff that AI produces as you have to a human being? And then, of course, the legal risks, depending on what technology you use, depending on what business you're in, what are the legal risks when starting to use a specific AI? And then, like I said before, we have a special responsibility because we're a public service media. What is your specific responsibility, and how are you going to ensure that you still live up to it? And definitely, how will you make sure to not reproduce artificial intelligence? So that's, I think, that was about my 15 minutes. So I can stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Stine, and it was really exciting. And you also brought up already some of the dilemmas we will discuss in the panel debate in a moment. But let's also hear from the corporate communication point of view. So Jonas, can you share the journey and experience that you have heard from various corporate communication people about the use of AI?
Sure. Let me just share. Let me see if you can. So I am hopefully sharing the right presentation right now. Let me just see. That looks right. Can you see the slides? Yes, great. So yeah, so I'm very looking into how our corporate communicators using it right now. So this is more like my little experience from having worked with, I think it's around 50 organizations right now on generative AI during the last 6 months. So what you get here is a bit like an anecdotal, insights into how corporate communicators are using it right now. So first of all, a quick intro to myself. Instead of having me to introducing myself, I could also ask Crystal, which is a little bot that can look into my LinkedIn profile and read what it is that I'm sharing, how I write, and so on, and give me a little, insight into who I am, what I like, and what kind of profile I have. I can also read all the 15 pages I get, but I mean, this is just to show you that this is also something that has been working for the last 5 years is profiling people based on their behaviors in social media. There's so much things that AI can do already, but I am as you said, Anders, working with communications and focusing on digital channels in general, and AI is one of the big things that I'm looking into right now. And as you also said, this is me, and this is my avatar.
Hi there. It's a pleasure to present with the real Jonas at this global ER Alliance event.
But as you said, this is this is the confusing part right now, is that you can actually create avatars of yourself, and I don't know what we are going to use that for right now, but I guess at some point we'll figure out if there's a use case for it. But it's just so easy to create all these kind of fake things at the moment. So it's really exciting and interesting, but also a bit scary to see where this ends. And as you might have seen, that there was a story in CNN lately that where a finance worker was scammed to pay out $25 million after a video call that he believed was with the chief financial officer, but it was actually just a fake avatar. So even if this is, you could say, the technology itself and the generative AI itself feels, you could say it's very impressive right now what it's capable of. It still also reminds me of something else, which is back to my childhood when I got my Commodore 64, and it was also very impressive at that time. But it's still, you easily also experience the limitations in the technology, and I think that we are kind of the same place, because generative AI is impressive, but at the same time, we are at the very early beginnings on what this technology can do. But there is obviously a risk that we will become too ambitious in terms of and overestimate what the technology can do for us right now. And also just to give you an insight into the in general, what kind of maturity are we at right now? Which stage are we at right now? What can I see there? I think back in 23, we were all a bit ignorant. We couldn't know what this is and what we can use this for. But I think most of us have left that stage right now, and are beginning to move into the stage of curiosity, figuring out what is this, what does it mean for us. Some are also experimenting, like Stine, for instance, looking to see, how can we actually use these robots? How can they help us? And others are moving into the so-called clarifying stage, trying to figure out, now we have experimented, we've learned something, now we have some, real use cases we might want to use it for. But then there are these ethical dilemmas, there are some data security issues, and all the other things we need to think about. And when we've clarified this, we might actually implement and maybe scale this. And most organizations, they are here right now. This is what I feel, right, at least. I have defined 4 different roles generative AI bots they can take on when they are entering the offices, so to speak, and trying to help us. And this is the producer and assistant role, where they are obviously assisting us, for instance, in writing content and stuff like that, or becoming an avatar where they can take over some jobs for us. But there's also a role, an advisor and a coach role, where they can give us some ideas in terms of content ideas, give us some coaching in terms of messaging and so on. And then there's this super researcher, which could be a bot that is looking into complex stuff, a lot of, you could say, reports, for instance, giving us insights from these kind of things. And then we have the autonomous employee, which is something it's often called agents, autonomous agents, where the bots, they actually take on some tasks on themselves based on some kind of an instruction that they get from us. And I think there are so many use cases right now, and I have a presentation where I go through all of these use cases that I see with examples. But I think just to highlight a few, I think most organizations use generative AI really for very simple things at the moment. So let's just say the producer and assistant roles. It's about summarizing content. It's about generating a bit content, but also here we see that the quality of the content is really, you could say, it's not good enough. It requires a lot of good prompting or fine tuning. I see there's a trend in terms of creating personas also, so that you can become more, you could say, targeted towards specific personas. And then obviously image creation, as we saw with Stine, is also something that a lot of organizations try to work with right now. And then we have the advisor and the coach role, which is being used for idea generation, feedback on content, advice also on tough questions. And the super researcher role is more about, building specific chatbots, knowledge-based bots, and so on. And then we don't have anything right now for the autonomous employee, because I think that's a bit more complex. And we will see that will come up over time, where we have these bots that are able to, for instance, automatically respond to emails and so on. And in my mind, there are 3 different levels in generative AI, which we should be aware of. So the first level is basically getting to know the generative AI tools that we know right now with ChatGPT, the open models, and so on. And over time, we will move into level 2, where we look into these customized tools, where we work with customizing tools internally in organizations, focusing on using our internal data to create bots that are better in generating, for instance, generating content or advice and so on. And in the end, or over time, we will move into level 3, where these tools become more automated, use even more data, ongoing internal and feedback loops from external sites and so on, where they are instantly able to, you could say, learn and improve over time. And obviously at level 3, this is where we can potentially develop new products and services, personalized communication, also maybe gain a competitive advantage in an organization, develop or create higher value, but also run higher risk, because we need to offer more data to the bot, and it needs to have more autonomy to make decisions. And this is where ethics really become important. But at the moment, we are at level 1, most of us. And this means that we will all have to learn, what these language models can do for us, because this easily or quickly becomes a commodity for us. This will become an expectation over time that we will be able to handle these things. And basically, what you can get out of generative AI is very, very personal. So I've made my own formula right now, is that I can see that people come with different expectations, different skills, and different expectations also towards the what they think generative AI is capable of. But I think if you think of this, you will end up with your experience of generative AI. This is where we are right now. So it's so different what I experience. Some people are disappointed, and some people think this is the most fantastic thing they've seen ever, right? And just to end this, things to pay attention to right now is, one of the things that I see is that a lot of us are very focused on best practices right now. So what is the best practice within generative AI? And I'm sorry to say, but there's hardly any best practice right now. It's not an obvious area we are in right now. We are in I would say, a complex area where we have to try and trial and error. We have to practice and learn and see, what comes out of it. What does it mean for us? And we will have to have a tough conversation about, what will be human work. Where's the human touch valuable and required? Where do we need to augment our work? And where do we need to automate in the future? This is something we'll be discussing over time, and we will be making mistakes where we become too, you could say, too ambitious and too excited over technology, and will end up automate work that should, be kept human and so on. And this is also what we see right now. Examples of people being fired because we think that AI can do everything, and then they figure out that was not the case at all, right? someone called Pia Lauritsen, who has also visited our knowledge peer learning group about AI, made a good distinction between what the job of the robot is and what the job of humans is. And I think one of the great things I think in this distinction is that, you know, we are the ones who are responsible for asking the right questions, because the bot is not able to do it. It just answers the questions that we can ask, and it's really good at simulating things. So and the simulation itself can let us to believe that the bot can do more than it can actually do. It's really good at simulating things. So it's also our responsibility to sometimes slow down and say, okay, this is something we actually need to do ourselves. This is something we need to learn ourselves. This is not something that can be taken over by the bot. And we are the ones who are prioritizing the problems that are the most important problems right now, because the bot can solve anything, or at least simulate that it can solve anything, right? So I think, you know, if there's 5 things we should be aware of right now when we collaborate with a bot, then we can use these 5 Ds, which I created with a bot, basically. So it's about, you know, double checking things. Always double check the output that comes from the robot. Make sure that you, for instance, never publish content created entirely by generative AI. Make sure that you know something about data quality and reliability. So the output is only as good as the data it has to work with, as you also see with Stina's examples, right? And data security, I think it's really important for us also to know about, you know, what is it we can share and what can't we share, for instance, in open models, and also be aware of bias. So be really aware of that these models are heavily biased. Obviously, you can see that in these image generators, but there will also be cultural bias that you will not be seeing instantly, but you will have to really be skeptical in the text that you read and the output that it gives you. So that was all from me. And if you like, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and follow my journey on generative AI and what it means for corporate communications. Back to you, Anders.
Thank you so much, Jonas. It was truly exciting, and although there's no best practice, it was great that at least the bot could help you with some good practice. Thank you for that. And both you and Stine mentioned some of the ethical dilemmas that we are going to discuss in more detail now. And I think the first thing, and Stine, you touched upon this, is about trust, because trust is maybe the most important thing that we focus on as communication professionals. And that has been a problem for us helping our organizations for years. Edelman has documented that, but even in the last barometer here from 2024, the trust among government leaders, business leaders, and journalists are going down again. And it's all about the public not trusting us that we are giving them the right information, that we have the right intention. So maybe AI could be a help for us to increase trust. So one thing is, of course, all the things we have had about, you know, can we trust AI? But could you actually have an idea that it could help us? And if so, what would that be?
Yes, I think so, and I hope so. But you're right. I think the whole trust issue is major right now, and it's just going to be worse. We just actually published an issue this Monday about this whole tsunami of fakeness, deep fake videos and fake voices and like fake everything. And the problem is right now that we don't have many tools that can secure that we know what's true or not. I know that DALL-E has introduced some kind of watermark that is in the pictures, but you can just take a picture of the picture with the screen dump and then it's gone, you know, and then again, you don't know whether it's true or not. So I'm hoping somehow that we as media professionals somehow can be the ones that you can actually trust. So because fine that you make an AI news channel that scrapes real news, but what if it scrapes fake news and introduces it as news? Then we have a problem, right? so we need, as a media professionals, to ensure that everything we publish is going through some kind of human eye, and that that if something comes from me or from TV2 or whatever, like the big public service channels here in Denmark, it is actually secured by a human being. And there's not going to be so much of that in the future, unfortunately, is my fear, that we're going to have a lot of content that we have no idea whether it's true or not. So yeah, I'm hoping that it will help us.
So if I hear you correctly, one thing is making sure that we have the technology. So when we use AI, people can trust that that is AI generated and this is actually people who have generated it. That would be helpful. But also, as I hear you correctly, that maybe news media will be more popular in the future with the rise of AI, because people will look for edited, curated content and not AI-generated content. Was that part of your argumentation?
Yeah, that's my hope, that people will know that if you go to these specific channels, then you know that it is ensured by a human being, which is of course also important that we as media producers, that we make sure that everything's transparent, because like when we use Midjourney to generate a picture, then we should of course declare. So because there's a lot of media today that actually uses artificial intelligence for writing small news pieces, and you should also always write that this has been made by a generative AI. So there's a lot of transparency that needs to be there in the way that we work with AI in the media businesses. But yes, I sincerely hope that there's going to be some kind of ability to differentiate in the public out there, that if you see something from a public service media, then you know that it should be true. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And Jonas, seen from a corporate communication point of view, and maybe trust is also linked to reputation. So what are the potential pitfalls of using AI? And can you actually see that AI could help us in build reputation and build trust in the organizations?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's not about, when you work internally in organizations, it's not about, for instance, when you work with, you could say, fake avatars or something, or content. It should not be about fooling people, right? It should not be, for instance, about cloning a CEO and saying this is the real CEO or something. It should be about figuring out where can this actually, you could say, give us an opportunity to actually come out with a message, or reach more people. For instance, there are a lot of you could say opportunities in using AI, where you could actually, you could say, come out with a trustful message to a broader audience, for instance, to people who have difficulties reading and all these kind of things. So in some ways, it can actually become more inclusive by using AI. It could also become better at, let's say, combating misinformation. It could actually be better at, or it could help us in order to figure out where do we see some misunderstandings in society or wherever. And it can help us to figure out how can we actually create a message or something that is more truthful, and then actually, strengthen trust. So I think there's definitely the opportunity as well in terms of using this in the right way. But I think where should we be aware of when we use it in order to not undermine trust is to also be transparent when we use it in specific areas. For instance, let's say we've created an avatar for something. I think we should be very, very, you could say, transparent when this is the case, or when we have used generative AI to create content that in some way has an impact in the way you make decisions or inspires you to do specific things. I think it's important that we are transparent about the use of this, because there might be we don't really know enough about AI right now in terms of how it's constructed and what's behind this, and it's basically only math. But I think it's early days, and we need to be transparent when we work with this right now.
And you mentioned the word being transparent, and that's another key thing for us communicators, to help at least show that our organizations are transparent. So can AI help us in making things more transparent for people? And how would that look like? Or will it actually make things less transparent?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jonas, if you start, and then Stine, let's hear your view.
I was just, instantly thinking about decision making. It could actually be, give us some insights that will enable us to make more transparent decisions, because we would be able to get more transparent data, maybe. I also, I can't really recall an example from the corporate comms space right now, but I know that in the HR space, at least, they've been working with AI for some time. And some of the tools that I see there actually enables leaders to maybe get more insights than ever before, which helps them maybe make better decisions in the future. So this could actually enable us to, you could say, to see things in a different light. And then that actually reduce the human bias as well.
We'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Stine, you also talked about, well, it's both and. So here we are trying to find the.
Yeah, well, but it can, in theory, yes, it can make things more transparent, but it all depends on one, how you use it, and two, also whether you understand it, because what I see, at least on the leadership level, is that too many, it can also be so complex that it increases the distance. It's a lot easier for me to go down to you as your leader and tell you, hey, I have observed this, that, the other, and think we need to talk about this. But if I use an algorithm, it will increase the distance, and it will actually take us apart, and it will make it harder for you as an employee to know what you're being valued by. And so yes, in theory, it can make, if I as a leader can go down to you and say, yes, these are the data points I collect about you, and this is how I value them, then it can be more transparent. But it could also really increase the distance and make it a lot more complex sometimes.
Thank you. So I think it goes for both journalists and for corporate communication that we are content creators. And of course, we have seen that some organizations are starting firing people because they don't need them, or at least for now, and then maybe they will hire people back. But there's also the other question about who owns the content, and how can we actually make sure that the content rights are lived up to. What is your view on that? I know that there are certain news media that are sending their organization to court. Others are collaborating and saying, well, it's better that they use our content, because then we know it's accurate and we can trust it. So where are we with content rights?
Well, everywhere, basically. I mean, like you say, there are different ways of approaching it right now, because when we're talking about these big technologies, you can't get very far on a national level. So we're negotiating things more sort of on a European level. So yeah, we have the New York Times case, where New York Times have sued OpenAI for using their content, but we have the Axel Springer in Deutschland and Germany, where they collaborate. And then you have all the stuff in between, and you have a lot of companies right now, including ours, who have blocked generative AI. On the other hand, you could say, wouldn't it be a nice thing if generative AI was actually trained on content that had been viewed by human people, and not all sorts of weird stuff floating around on the internet? So, but as to the rights, we're not really agreeing yet, and there are different viewpoints in that. And I know that in Denmark, we are right now reviewing the copyright laws, so it includes the use of AI. But yeah, I cannot answer for everyone how we should do, because it's very different.
Jonas, we have a question from one of the audience, Heraldo, and I think it's linked to this topic. The question goes, do you know any company that has already regulated the use of AI internally? If not, what are the main terms we should consider?
Yeah, I mean, by regulation, I mean there are different ways of, you could say, regulating it. Some organizations, they have just made like let's say they have set four, you to say, cornerstones of what you call it, where they kind of just address the behavioral, the most important behavior when you use, for instance, when you use open models like ChatGPT, and then they actually left it to employees to make the right decisions, but also take on the responsibility if something goes wrong. Others, for instance, Novo Nordisk in Denmark, they have their own environment in terms of they have their own bots, ChatGPT bot, and you could say what I call level 2 bots, where they have created their own bots right now with Novo Nordisk data and so on. So I think it depends on which organization you are. You will regulate that in different ways, and I think some organizations that are also heavily regulated and so on, they are very interested also where they work with IP rights and so on. They are really interested in creating these kind of environments internally very quickly in order to keep this data in-house. And others, they are more, you could say, loose in their approach right now.
Okay, thank you. And there's a similar question related to the status of regulation in Denmark and in EU. And Stine, you talked a little about the situation in Denmark, but do you know more about the status also more broadly in Europe about the regulation of the use of AI?
Well, I know that for now we have this this opt-out opportunity that if you don't do anything, then automatically OpenAI and Gemini and all the other models can use your content. But you can go in and you can close the IP access, and you could write in your metadata and all sort of technical stuff that I don't know how to do. But I know that you can go in and actually say, no, you cannot take our content, and then they have to respect it. So that's what I know for now is like a common rule within the EU. And then I know that there's a lot of legislation negotiation going on, and what it's going to end up with, I honestly don't know, because it's for now, again, it's different from media to media and from country to country. But again, I think that we have to negotiate something on a European level, because that's how it works with these big technologies.
Thank you. We saw these nice pictures, of maybe not that nice pictures you showed that clearly showed the bias in the use of AI, and of course, as you showed, there is bias. But could AI, in principle, also help us reduce bias, because we as persons have a lot of unconscious bias as well? So at least in theory, or maybe examples where AI are used to reduce bias.
Yeah, I mean, there are AI tools. I know the one called Develop Diverse, which is the one that actually you could feed in all your text. You can and then it can tell you whether you're biased towards men or women or young or old. But also if you use, it's a bit like the transparency question. Yes, it could, if you use it properly. I mean, if you ask it directly whether things could be biased here, or help me, if you make a picture and you ask the bot where are the biases in this picture. So yes, it could definitely, if you are aware of challenging the AI on bias. And also we use it to sort of, when you make a text, you could put it in and then you could ask, is there anything I'm missing here? Am I biased here? And then, it can help you in that way if you are aware of how to use it to cover your bias. But if you don't, then it's going to just reproduce even more bias, because it is biased.
You also have a few examples, or an example, Jonas, about using it.
Yeah, there's something called Tengai Unbiased, and it's a Swedish recruiter bot that is actually doing the job. It's the first job interview, which says that it's unbiased. So it makes sure that everybody gets the same answers and so on, questions to answer, and it analyzes it in an unbiased way, right? So there are some tools out there where you can use AI to actually, you could say, make sure that you are less biased. But bias is an interesting discussion, because I mean, what is bias and what is it not? I mean, I can't really answer it myself anymore, because and sometimes maybe even bias is a good thing in terms of when you run a company and you want to make sure that that you are working with people who you can get along with. So it's such a difficult topic, I think. But in the end, I mean, I agree that the data set that we have, we need to be so aware of the data set that we use, that is used right now in, for instance, ChatGPT or an OpenAI's GPT model or Gemini or whatever we use, because it's pure math, right? So whatever the data set, whatever is dominating the data set, that's the output that you get, unless you're really, really good at prompting. So if you're not aware of that, you will be producing a lot of biased output, and that's not really fantastic.
And also, I was just thinking that no matter what kind of AI technology you use, I think you have an obligation to somehow look into what kind of values you're interacting with. Like if you're building your own AI or you're buying some kind of technology, you should also look at where does the data come from, what does the data value, what's good or bad, or so you're always obliged to know what values you're interacting with. I would say.
Makes sense. Before we bring the session to a close, there's a question from the audience that you have brought up a lot of great mentions of various AI tools. So will you be able to share an overview, or where could you go and find an overview of the different tools that are being used, that you are using yourself or that are most used? Jonas, you are nodding, so it seems like that you have an idea of where should people go?
Yeah, if you just want to get an overview of all the thousands of tools that are out there, you could, for instance, go to futurepedia.io and then just type in a use case, and it will suggest some generative AI tools that you can use. But be aware, they are open models. You don't know who you are sharing your data with, so use it for with some data that you can easily that is not what's it called, confidential or sensitive, and see what it can do for you. And then if you think there's that this seems to work, you could always find out if there's a better way a better technology, more safe technology to be using afterwards.
Then a final question from Raldo. He says that with all the risk that are brought up about use of AI, maybe a lot of companies will just say, well, we shouldn't start using it. So yeah. What is it that a company will lose if not using AI?
Yeah, I was talking to this AI consultant, and he said a lot of the customers that come into us now, they don't want to be first, but they don't want to be second either. They would rather be like 1.5, because you don't want to make all the mistakes, but you don't want to be second mover, because then you definitely lose out. So it is a dilemma right now, and I think moving with caution is. I understand if people opt out, but I think there's a big risk of not at least being curious, maybe testing, maybe sort of getting a basic understanding of what kind of technologies are out there, what could they possibly do for us? Because if you just sort of hide, then you are in the risk of losing out, both as a person, like a profession, or as a company.
And maybe that would be the final question. If you should come up with one thing that you will suggest people focus on right now to work with AI, but also making sure that the balance gets right, where should they focus, or what should they do?
Me or Jonas?
Both of you, and then we'll bring it to
Jonas, you're best at answering that. You're a communication.
There's so many things that are the obvious things to say here, so I might say something different. But first of all, to Stine's point about the previous question, I think that was interesting, because you could also just think back of when Nokia lost everything, right? They weren't the organizations they knew that smartphones and the touchscreen was coming, but they weren't really up for it. So this is actually where you can, but you don't know where the technology, how is it going to end with generative AI? No one knows. it might dominate the world at some point, and then it's just a pity that you didn't start experimenting learning, because then you might be losing your business. But we don't know where this ends, right? So there might be something about, explore and learn. But I think in terms of where to start, one of the things I see right now is that we could really, you could say, benefit from understanding how data is influencing the bots, how data is influencing the generative AI models right now. Because if we don't understand that, we will never really understand how this is working and what the pitfalls are. So this is something I see is really, really important, and I don't understand that enough right now. I need to figure that out as well. So, but I think this is really important for us to understand.
Thank you, Jonas. Stine, have you a view on this?
Well, yeah, I agree with Jonas, because if you don't understand how data works, you will never know what kind of quality comes out in the other end and what the values are that you're interacting with. But yeah, but to be maybe low entry level, I would just go out and start testing. There are no specific tools that I will recommend other than the ones that makes you the more curious, and then try to see how it actually works. But yeah, go to Wikipedia and find something that matches exactly your curiosity. That's a good idea.
You were prompting the robot of Jonas,
yeah. Curious was good, Stine. Be skeptical and curious,
yes,
right? At the same time.
Skeptical and curious. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. With these two words, I think we'll bring the session to a close. Be skeptical and curious about the use of AI. And Kanaba has asked if we actually will share the Zoom recording. And yes, Global Alliance will share it on their homepage. So if you forget some of it or want to see it again or share it with colleagues, please do so. Thank you, Stine. Thank you, Jonas, for your time and your great input. And thanks to all of the participants for joining this Global Alliance and KE1 event. Have a great day.